Hey guys, tonight we're taking a journey back to ancient Egypt, a land of pyramids, golden sarcophagi, and seemingly perfect pharaohs. But here's a little secret you won't find on the postcards: these divine rulers, the living gods on earth, had absolutely terrible teeth. I mean, truly awful. We're talking rampant decay, abscesses, severe wear, the kind of dental nightmares that would send even the bravest modern dentist into a cold sweat. Imagine being a pharaoh, living in unimaginable luxury, with access to endless resources, and yet your mouth is a constant battlefield of pain. Honestly, you probably wouldn't survive a single royal banquet without wincing. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening, drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself transported to the scorching sands of ancient Egypt, standing beside the majestic Nile around 1300 BCE. The sun beats down, a golden orb in a sky so blue it almost hurts your eyes. You are not a peasant toiling in the fields, nor a craftsman shaping bricks. Tonight, you are a fly on the wall in the most exclusive circles, perhaps even within the opulent palace itself, privy to the intimate details of royal life. And what you're about to discover about the pharaohs' mouths might just surprise you. We often imagine pharaohs as paragons of perfection, their mummified remains preserving an idealized image for eternity. Yet, when modern scientists, equipped with X-rays and CT scans, began meticulously examining these ancient rulers, a common, painful truth emerged. From the mighty Ramesses II, who lived to a ripe old age, to the young Tutankhamun, who died tragically early, a recurring theme in their skeletal remains was the appalling state of their dentition. Their teeth were often severely worn down, exposing the sensitive dentin and sometimes even the pulp. Abscesses, those incredibly painful pockets of infection, were rampant, gnawing at their jawbones. Many pharaohs suffered from multiple missing teeth, leaving gaping holes in their supposedly divine smiles. This wasn't just a minor inconvenience. This was chronic, debilitating pain. Imagine trying to deliver a royal decree, your jaw throbbing with an abscess, or attempting to enjoy a sumptuous feast, only for every bite to send agonizing jolts through exposed nerves. These were individuals who commanded armies, built monumental temples, and were revered as gods, yet they were slaves to the relentless agony of their own mouths. It's a stark, almost humorous, contrast to their divine status, isn't it? Almost makes you think twice about wanting to be a pharaoh. So, what was the culprit behind this royal dental disaster? It wasn't a lack of hygiene in the modern sense, or even a particular sweet tooth, at least not in the way we understand it today. The fundamental problem lay deeply embedded in their very diet, in the very staff of life in ancient Egypt bread. But not just any bread. Ancient Egyptian bread was, by our standards, incredibly abrasive. The process of making it was rudimentary. Grain was harvested and then ground using saddle querns, two stones, one stationary base, and another smaller stone rubbed back and forth across it. This process, while effective for grinding grain, inevitably introduced tiny, gritty particles of quartz and feldspar, microscopic pieces of the very stone used for grinding, directly into the flour. These weren't just occasional specks, they were pervasive, almost invisible contaminants in every single loaf. Think about it every day, multiple times a day. The pharaoh, his family, and indeed, every ancient Egyptian consumed this gritty bread. With every bite, these tiny rock-hard particles acted like sandpaper, relentlessly abrading the enamel of their teeth. It was a slow, cumulative process. But over years, the protective outer layer of their teeth was worn away. Once the enamel was gone, the softer, more sensitive dentin was exposed, leading to increased sensitivity and susceptibility to decay. This constant grinding action also explains the remarkably flat wear patterns observed on royal teeth, a clear signature of this abrasive diet. It wasn't just the grinding stones. The harvesting methods themselves sometimes introduced grit. Grain was often threshed on hard, earthen surfaces, picking up more sand and dirt. Storage methods weren't perfectly clean either, allowing dust and fine sand to settle into the grain. So, even before it reached the quern, the grain often carried a subtle payload of abrasive material. This continuous wear created microscopic fissures and larger cracks in the teeth, providing perfect entry points for bacteria. While sugar, as we know it, wasn't a major dietary component for most ancient Egyptians, dates and honey were consumed, especially by the elite. These natural sugars, combined with the structural damage caused by the abrasive grit, created a perfect storm for rampant dental caries or cavities. Once a cavity formed without modern fillings, it would simply deepen, eventually reaching the nerve and causing agonizing pain, culminating in abscesses and tooth loss. The lives of the pharaohs, despite their divine status, were therefore a daily struggle against excruciating dental pain. The very food that sustained their empire also systematically destroyed their teeth. It's a humbling thought, isn't it? That even the most powerful rulers were utterly powerless against something as seemingly innocuous as a tiny grain of sand in their daily bread. This fundamental dietary flaw, the invisible enemy lurking in every meal, was the primary reason why the smiles of the pharaohs, in reality, were anything but perfect. You've just peeled back the first layer of the pharaoh's dental woes, the abrasive bread, but that's just one piece of a complex puzzle. To truly understand why these god kings endured such oral agony, we need to delve deeper into the daily grind diet's dental disaster, exploring the full spectrum of foods that silently eroded their royal teeth, turning what should have been a pleasure into persistent misery. Imagine sitting at a lavish royal banquet. The air is heavy with the scent of roasted meats, fragrant herbs, and sweet pastries. Musicians play gentle tunes, and servants move silently, offering delicate morsels. To your modern eye, much of this feast would seem delightful. Yet, unknowingly, many of these seemingly benign foods were conspiring against the pharaoh's dental health, contributing to a relentless, grinding destruction. While bread was the primary culprit due to its ubiquitous grit, it wasn't alone. The overall diet of ancient Egyptians, even the elite, was surprisingly harsh on teeth. Their primary carbohydrate source was cereals, predominantly barley and emmer wheat. These grains, as we discussed, were poorly processed, meaning their natural outer husks, which are quite tough and fibrous, often remained partially intact in the flour. These tough fibers, combined with the omnipresent grit, significantly increased the abrasive action of every single meal. Think of it as constantly chewing on a very fine, fibrous sandpaper. Beyond the grains themselves, the way food was prepared often exacerbated the problem. Vegetables like leeks, onions, and garlic were common, as were various legumes such as lentils and chickpeas. These were often eaten raw or minimally cooked, retaining their tough cellular structures. While nutritious, the consistent chewing of such fibrous plant matter, especially when combined with sandy bread, put immense stress on teeth already compromised by abrasive wear. It's like having constantly roughage scraping against exposed nerves. Fruits were a welcome sweetness, especially dates and figs. These were staples, often dried for preservation. While delicious, their stickiness posed a different kind of threat. Dried fruits are highly concentrated in natural sugars, and their sticky texture means they adhere readily to tooth surfaces and crevices. In the absence of effective brushing, these sugary residues provided a perfect feast for oral bacteria, which then produced acids that ate away at the already weakened enamel and exposed dentin, accelerating the formation of cavities. Imagine biting into a sticky, sweet fig and feeling that sharp, familiar twinge of a nascent cavity. Even for a pharaoh, honey was another highly prized sweetener, used in various dishes and desserts. Like dried fruits, honey is pure sugar, and its viscous nature made it incredibly difficult to remove from teeth. The pharaohs certainly enjoyed lavish desserts sweetened with honey, and while delightful to the palate, these treats were a dental nightmare. The constant bathing of teeth in sugary solutions, coupled with the abrasive wear, ensured that cavities would be a recurring and progressive problem. This combination of mechanical wear and chemical erosion was a double-edged sword, cutting down the strongest teeth over time. Meat, while consumed, was often tough and required significant chewing. Animals were typically older, and cooking methods weren't always geared towards tenderization. This meant more strenuous chewing, further contributing to the wear and tear on already compromised teeth. Fish, a common protein source from the Nile, sometimes contained small bones or scales that could also contribute to accidental wear or even chip weakened teeth. Even seemingly innocent drinks could be problematic. While water from the Nile was purified for the elite, it still carried fine sediment. Wine and beer, staple beverages, particularly for adults, while not directly abrasive, often contained residual fermentation byproducts and could contribute to an acidic oral environment. Further weakening enamel. Archaeological analyses of ancient Egyptian brewing vessels often reveal the presence of residual grit, indicating that even their beverages weren't entirely free of abrasive particles. What's truly striking is that, despite the opulence and perceived advancement of ancient Egyptian civilization, their diet inherently worked against healthy teeth. It wasn't a question of dietary choices or willpower. It was a fundamental flaw in food processing and preparation that affected everyone, from the lowliest peasant to the most exalted pharaoh. The tools of their daily sustenance became, unwittingly, the instruments of their dental destruction. The constant, relentless abrasion didn't just create cavities, it also led to gum disease. As teeth wore down, the gums would recede, exposing more of the sensitive tooth root and creating pockets where food particles and bacteria could accumulate. This would lead to inflammation, pain, and eventually the loosening and loss of teeth. Many mummified pharaohs show evidence of advanced periodontal disease, their jawbones exhibiting significant bone loss around the teeth. Imagine the daily discomfort chronic toothaches, sensitive gums, the inability to chew certain foods without pain, the constant worry about a tooth breaking or an abscess flaring up. This wasn't just aesthetic, it profoundly impacted their quality of life. For a pharaoh who needed to project an image of divine perfection and strength, living with such constant, debilitating pain must have been an immense personal burden. It's tempting to imagine that the pharaohs, with their immense resources, would have found a way around these problems. But the fundamental understanding of dental health as we know it simply didn't exist. They couldn't magically remove the grit from their flour, nor could they invent modern dentistry. They were trapped by the limitations of their technology and the pervasive nature of their diet. Many Egyptologists still debate the exact prevalence and severity of specific dental conditions across different social classes in ancient Egypt. Though the evidence for pervasive wear and decay is overwhelming across all strata. So, the next time you picture a majestic pharaoh, resplendent in gold and linen, remember the silent suffering behind that idealized image. Their diet, a daily routine of gritty bread, fibrous vegetables, and sticky sugary fruits, was a slow, grinding disaster for their teeth. It's a humbling reminder that even absolute power couldn't conquer the fundamental realities of ancient food preparation and its profound impact on health. You've grasped the relentless assault of abrasive grains and sticky fruits on the pharaoh's teeth. But there's another, more insidious culprit, often invisible to the naked eye, that truly cemented their dental doom. It's a seemingly innocuous ingredient that, like a slow poison, relentlessly wore down their enamel sand in the supper invisible enemy. Imagine you are a royal baker, working in the stifling heat of an Egyptian kitchen. The grains arrive from the fields, gathered and transported with admirable efficiency for the time, but without the benefit of modern cleaning processes. The wheat and barley, essential for daily bread, would have been threshed on hard, often earthen threshing floors. This process, designed to separate the grain from the husks, invariably introduced tiny, abrasive particles of sand and fine grit directly into the harvested kernels. Think about it: every gust of wind over the threshing floor, every footstep of an ox treading the grain, would stir up dust and microscopic pieces of rock from the ground. This wasn't just a little bit of dirt, it was pervasive. While some larger impurities might be winnowed out by tossing the grain into the air, allowing the wind to carry away the lighter chaff, the finer, heavier sand particles would remain, stubbornly clinging to the grain. Then came the grinding. As we discussed, the primary method was the saddle quern. This involved rubbing an upper stone back and forth over a larger, stationary lower stone. Even if the grain arrived perfectly clean, which it never did, the very act of grinding inevitably caused tiny fragments of the granite or basalt grinding stones to break off and mix directly into the flour. These were hard, crystalline particles, perfectly designed to act as a dental abrasive. It's like eating a meal dusted with microscopic shards of rock. Consider the sheer volume of bread consumed. Bread was the cornerstone of the ancient Egyptian diet, eaten at every meal by everyone, from the lowliest laborer to the most exalted pharaoh. This meant a constant, daily intake of these abrasive particles. It wasn't just an occasional gritty bite, it was a relentless, cumulative assault on the teeth, meal after meal, day after day, year after year. For a pharaoh who might live for decades, this constant abrasion would grind down even the strongest teeth. The effects were profound. The enamel, the tough outer layer of your teeth, is incredibly strong, but it's not invincible. These microscopic pieces of quartz and feldspar, harder than tooth enamel itself, acted like sandpaper, slowly but surely eroding the protective layer. Once the enamel was breached, the softer dentin beneath was exposed. This exposed dentin is far more susceptible to wear and decay, leading to sensitivity, pain, and the rapid progression of cavities. You can often see the telltale signs of this wear on the mummified remains of pharaohs and commoners alike. Their teeth aren't just decayed, they are often severely flattened and worn down, sometimes to the point where the pulp cavity, containing the sensitive nerves and blood vessels, is exposed. This deep wear, known as attrition, is a clear indicator of a diet rich in abrasive particles. It's a signature of the ubiquitous sand. Archaeological analyses of ancient Egyptian flour samples have consistently revealed a significant percentage of mineral contaminants, providing concrete evidence of this pervasive problem. The constant presence of sand also exacerbated other dental problems. As the teeth wore down, the bite would shift, putting unnatural stress on certain teeth in the jaw joint. The open wounds created by the exposed pulp were prime breeding grounds for bacterial infections, leading to abscesses, incredibly painful pockets of pus that could cause swelling, fever, and even be life-threatening if the infection spread to the jawbone or beyond. Imagine the pharaoh suffering from an excruciating abscess, his face swollen, yet still expected to perform his divine duties. It's a vivid, painful reality behind the serene masks. This issue wasn't unique to Egypt, but it was particularly pronounced there due to the sandy desert environment and their specific grain processing methods. Unlike later civilizations that developed more sophisticated milling techniques like rotary querns that produced finer flour with less grit, the ancient Egyptians relied on methods that inherently incorporated these abrasive particles into their food. It was a silent, insidious enemy hiding in plain sight, in every loaf of bread. The sheer normalcy of it meant it wasn't seen as a problem to be solved. This was simply how bread was made. There was no concept of sterile food preparation or dental health. The focus was on sustenance, on providing enough food for a vast population. The dental consequences were an accepted, if agonizing, part of life. Even their famed longevity, such as Ramses, who lived into his 90s, came at a significant dental cost. Imagine the cumulative wear and tear over 9 decades of eating gritty bread. His mummified remains indeed show severe dental damage, a testament to this lifelong battle against microscopic sand. It's a grim legacy, etched onto the very teeth of their kings. So, The next time you enjoy a soft, perfectly milled slice of bread, take a moment to appreciate the advancements in food processing. For the pharaohs, that daily staple intended to sustain them was simultaneously and invisibly grinding down their teeth, ensuring that even their royal smiles were a testament to the pervasive power of a tiny, unseen enemy sand. You've witnessed the invisible assault of sand and the relentless wear from their daily diet. Now, let's explore what little defense the pharaohs had against this dental devastation. In a world without toothbrushes, toothpaste, or regular dental checkups, understanding oral hygiene's lack in ancient Egypt helps complete the grim picture of their dental woes. Imagine waking up in the pharaoh's palace. The morning routine, while elaborate in other aspects, would be starkly different from ours when it came to oral care. There was no concept of a morning brush and floss. The tools and understanding simply didn't exist. This absence of effective daily hygiene meant that food particles, sugars from fruits and honey, and the relentless grit from bread lingered on and between teeth, providing a constant feast for bacteria. So, what did they do? The closest thing to a toothbrush might have been chewing sticks. You might find a pharaoh or high-ranking noble occasionally chewing on the frayed end of a twig, perhaps from an aromatic plant like the persea tree. These sticks could provide some mechanical cleaning, gently scraping away some plaque and food debris from the tooth surfaces. But imagine how ineffective this would be compared to a modern bristled toothbrush, especially for reaching the complex surfaces of molars or the spaces between teeth. It was a valiant, but largely insufficient, effort against a formidable enemy. They might also have used various abrasive powders or pastes, rubbed onto the teeth with fingers or cloths. These concoctions often included ingredients like crushed rock salt, powdered alabaster, dried iris flowers, or even mint. While these might have offered a sense of freshness and perhaps removed some superficial stains, their abrasive nature likely contributed more to the wear of already compromised enamel. It's an ironic twist their attempts at cleaning might have inadvertently accelerated the destruction, adding to the problem rather than solving it. Imagine rubbing fine sand on your teeth in the name of cleanliness. Ouch, flossing completely unheard of. The tiny crevices between teeth, the ideal breeding ground for plaque and bacteria, remained untouched. Food debris would lodge there, fermenting and causing localized decay. This explains why many ancient Egyptian mummies, including pharaohs, show significant interproximal between teeth cavities, where the decay starts in those hard-to-reach spots. Regular dental visits were not a thing either. There were no preventative checkups, no hygienist to scale away tartar. Dental issues were only addressed once they became excruciatingly painful or visibly debilitating. By then, the damage was often irreversible, requiring extreme measures or simply enduring the agony. The concept of proactive dental care, aimed at preventing disease rather than just treating its symptoms, was millennia away. Even the water they drank, while seemingly clean, might have contributed. The Nile, their source of life, also carried fine silt. While the elite might have had access to clearer, filtered water, complete removal of all fine particles was impossible. This meant a continuous, albeit subtle, introduction of more grit into their oral environment, especially for those not regularly rinsing their mouths. The pharaohs' immense wealth and access to the best physicians in Egypt offered little solace for their teeth. While Egyptian medicine was remarkably advanced in some areas, like surgery or setting broken bones, their understanding of dental health was rudimentary at best. They could treat symptoms, drain an abscess, for instance, but they lacked any real understanding of the underlying causes of tooth decay and gum disease. Scholars often point to the Ebers Papyrus, a comprehensive medical text from ancient Egypt, which details numerous remedies for various ailments but offers surprisingly few and often ineffective treatments for dental problems. Highlighting this gap in medical knowledge, consider the constant suffering, the nagging ache of a cavity, the sharp pain of exposed dentin, the throbbing agony of an abscess that makes eating, speaking, and even sleeping a torment. for a pharaoh whose very image was divine. This constant physical discomfort must have been profoundly frustrating. How do you maintain an aura of untouchable majesty when your jaw is swollen and every word sends a jolt of pain through your skull? It's a strange paradox, a civilization capable of constructing monumental pyramids, developing complex writing systems, and perfecting the art of mummification, yet utterly defeated by something as seemingly simple as tooth decay. Their technological limitations in food processing, coupled with a fundamental lack of effective oral hygiene practices, conspired to ensure that even the rulers of a mighty empire suffered from a universal grinding dental misery. So, the next time you brush your teeth, take a moment to appreciate the humble toothbrush. For the pharaohs, that daily ritual of a minty fresh mouth and healthy gums was an unimaginable luxury, leaving them to endure a lifetime of dental agony, a silent testament to the challenges of ancient oral hygiene. You've explored the dietary onslaught and the rudimentary hygiene. Now, let's delve into what happened when the inevitable occurred. The agonizing reality of painful remedies, ancient dentistry's woes. In an era without modern anesthetics, sterile instruments, or sophisticated understanding of infection, treatment for a toothache was often as terrifying as the ailment itself. Imagine the pharaoh, his face swollen, his royal dignity momentarily forgotten in the throbbing agony of a severe tooth abscess. His esteemed physicians, revered for their knowledge of herbs and surgical techniques, would be summoned. But when it came to teeth, their expertise was alarmingly limited. They were masters of mummification, preservers of the dead, yet often helpless in the face of live dental suffering. The primary approach was often palliative, attempting to alleviate the pain rather than curing the underlying problem. You might see a physician applying a poultice made from various herbs, perhaps opium poppies or mandrake, to the affected area. These would offer some narcotic relief, dulling the excruciating pain. But they did nothing to address the deep-seated infection. It was a temporary truce, not a victory, in the war against the toothache. Sometimes more direct, albeit crude. Interventions were attempted. If a tooth was loose due to severe gum disease, or if it was hopelessly decayed, extraction might be considered. Imagine this process without anesthetics. The patient would be fully conscious, experiencing every wrenching moment. The tools available were simple, likely bronze or copper pliers, or perhaps crude levers. The physician would grasp the offending tooth and attempt to pull it out, relying on brute force and the patient's immense pain tolerance. The sound alone, the tearing of tissue and the cracking of bone, would be enough to make you wince. The risk of fracturing the tooth, breaking the jaw, or causing severe infection was incredibly high. Many ancient skeletal remains show evidence of botched extractions, highlighting the dangers of such rudimentary procedures. For abscesses, the goal was often to drain the pus to relieve pressure. This might involve lancing the swollen gum with a sharp bronze blade, a terrifying prospect that offered only temporary relief. The infection, often deep within the jawbone, would likely persist, leading to recurring abscesses and chronic pain. There was no concept of antibiotics. The body's own immune system was left to battle the infection, often unsuccessfully. The Ebers Papyrus, a comprehensive medical text from around 1550 BCE, provides a glimpse into ancient Egyptian medical knowledge. While it details numerous remedies for various ailments, its dental prescriptions are remarkably sparse and often ineffective by modern standards. You might find recipes for mouth rinses made from beer, onion, or even ground-up pig's tooth, meant to treat gum inflammation or looseness. These were often more ritualistic than medicinal, based on magical beliefs as much as practical observation. It's a sobering thought despite their sophisticated understanding of anatomy gained through mummification. Their knowledge of dental pathology remained largely mystical. One peculiar and rarely effective remedy involved using honey and other sticky substances to attempt to fill cavities. The idea was to seal the hole and prevent further decay. However, as you might guess, honey is a sugar, and sealing it into a cavity would only provide a perfect breeding ground for more bacteria. accelerating the decay rather than stopping it. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. There were also attempts at prosthetic dentistry, though these were exceedingly rare and primarily found on mummies, suggesting they were applied post-mortem or were more ornamental than functional. For example, some mummies have been found with gold wire used to bind loose teeth together, or to attach a shell or stone tooth replacement. These were status symbols, perhaps, but offered little in the way of practical chewing ability or relief from pain. Archaeological evidence for truly functional dental prosthetics in ancient Egypt is remarkably scarce, leading many scholars to conclude that such procedures were experimental and not widespread. The social implications of these painful remedies were also significant. For a pharaoh, maintaining an image of divine health and perfection was paramount. Yet, the physical suffering from dental issues, the swelling, the visible missing teeth, the difficulty in speaking or eating, would have been hard to conceal. Imagine a pharaoh attempting to deliver a powerful speech, his words slurred by a swollen jaw, or grimacing involuntarily as a sudden pang of toothache shoots through his head. It's a powerful reminder of their human vulnerability beneath the layers of divinity. This lack of effective dental care meant a lifetime of escalating pain. A small cavity would grow into a large one, leading to infection, abscess, and eventually, tooth loss. The cumulative effect of these untreated problems meant that by middle age, many pharaohs would have suffered significant tooth loss, leaving them with severely compromised chewing ability and chronic pain. The serene expressions on their statues and death masks conceal a much more agonizing reality. So, the next time you hear a dental drill, or feel the gentle prod of a hygienist's tool, remember the pharaohs. For them, dental care was a brutal, desperate affair, a testament to the fact that even divine power couldn't alleviate the agonizing reality of ancient dentistry's painful and often futile remedies. You've now seen the brutal realities of pharaonic dental pain, from the abrasive diet to the agonizing remedies. It's tempting to think this was a unique curse of the kings, given their peculiar diet and divine status. But, in fact, this was not limited to the palace. The grim truth is that from royal pain to common plight, terrible teeth were a universal ancient Egyptian affliction, cutting across all social strata. Imagine stepping out of the pharaoh's palace and into a bustling village along the Nile. Here, the daily diet is even more basic, and the methods of food preparation even cruder. The same abrasive sand and grit that plagued the pharaoh's banquet table were even more prevalent in the meager meals of the common people. For the vast majority of Egyptians, their diet consisted almost entirely of bread, beer, and a few vegetables and legumes. Meat was a rarity, a luxury for special occasions. This meant an even greater reliance on those problematic cereals, barley and emmer wheat, which were the primary sources of daily caloric intake. The grinding of these grains was often done with the same saddle querns, or even more rudimentary hand tools, by the women of the household. Their grinding stones might be even rougher, their attention to purity less meticulous than in the royal kitchens, leading to an even higher concentration of abrasive grit in the flour. Think about a common laborer, toiling under the relentless sun, whose main sustenance is thick, coarse bread. Every bite is contributing to the slow, irreversible wear of their teeth. By their 30s or 40s, many would have suffered severe attrition, their teeth worn down to stumps, exposing the sensitive pulp. This was a direct consequence of a lifetime of consuming that ubiquitous sandy bread. And what about oral hygiene for the common folk? Even less than the pharaoh. The chewing sticks and abrasive powders, while rudimentary, might have been marginally more accessible to the elite. For the average Egyptian, any form of oral care was likely limited to rinsing their mouth with water after meals, or occasionally chewing on a fibrous plant stem. The constant presence of food debris, combined with the structural damage from abrasion, created a perfect breeding ground for rampant decay and gum disease. Evidence for this widespread dental suffering isn't anecdotal. Modern archaeological studies of burial sites, not just royal tombs but also common cemeteries, consistently reveal the same pattern of severe dental pathology across all segments of the ancient Egyptian population. Skeletons from humble graves show tooth wear, cavities, abscesses, and signs of periodontal disease that are just as severe, if not more so, than those found in the mummies of the elite. This is a common historical truth. Fundamental health challenges often transcend social class, especially when tied to pervasive environmental factors and basic technology. Consider the daily life of a farmer. Every mouthful of their staple bread would be a gritty affair. Their teeth were tools for survival, and constantly stressed by chewing tough, minimally processed foods, the constant toothaches, the difficulty in eating, the bad breath, the visible decay. These weren't just discomforts. They severely impacted their ability to work, to socialize, and simply to live without chronic pain. A severe abscess for a farmer could mean inability to work, leading to starvation for his family. For the common person, there was no royal physician to offer even temporary palliative care, no special poultices, just the grim endurance of pain. The medical papyri, while focusing on elite concerns, occasionally mention common ailments that clearly point to widespread dental problems. Prescriptions for pain in the teeth or diseased gums would have been attempted by village healers or family members, often with even less success than the royal physicians. The Ebers Papyrus, while mainly concerned with the elite, would have been almost aspirational for the common person, a testament to the limited reach of formal medicine. Many historians still debate the extent to which medical knowledge disseminated down to the common populace. Though it's clear that access to specialized care was highly stratified, it also meant that visible dental disfigurement, missing teeth, swollen jaws, signs of infection, would have been a common sight in ancient Egyptian society. It wasn't something hidden away. It was an undeniable, widespread reality. When you looked at a crowd in the market or workers in the fields, you would see individuals of all ages with the telltale signs of severe dental wear and decay. It truly was a problem that touched every single person in the land. The pervasive nature of this dental affliction highlights a key aspect of ancient life, even in a civilization as advanced as Egypt. Certain fundamental challenges remained unconquered. Despite their achievements in monumental architecture, complex religious systems, and sophisticated irrigation, the basic act of eating left them vulnerable to widespread, debilitating dental disease. It was a silent, persistent enemy that affected pharaoh and peasant alike, leaving a legacy of pain etched into the very bones of an entire civilization. You've journeyed through the diets, the hygiene, and the widespread suffering. But how do we know all this with such certainty, millennia after the pharaohs walked the earth? The answer lies in the incredible meticulousness of ancient Egyptian burial practices and the remarkable insights gleaned from evidence from the crypts mummies tell all. Imagine a modern dental anthropologist, clad in sterile gloves, meticulously examining the exposed skull of an ancient Egyptian mummy in a quiet museum laboratory. It's not a gruesome scene, but a scientific endeavor, where every tooth, every bone fragment, every faint mark on the jaw tells a story of diet, disease, and daily life from thousands of years ago. This isn't just theory, it's hard, undeniable evidence, preserved by the very process of mummification. When a body was mummified, whether it was a mighty pharaoh or a humble scribe, the bones and teeth were largely preserved. Unlike skeletons exposed to the elements, the controlled environment of a tomb, especially for royal mummies, offered remarkable protection against degradation. This means that when archaeologists and medical researchers gently unwrap these ancient remains, the dental evidence is often incredibly well preserved, almost as if frozen in time. The first thing that strikes you when looking at these ancient teeth is the severe attrition, or where, instead of the relatively sharp cusps of unworn modern teeth, many ancient Egyptian teeth are worn flat, sometimes even concave, like small, polished pebbles. For the molars, which bear the brunt of chewing, this wear can be so extreme that the chewing surfaces are completely gone, exposing the underlying dentin and often a small, dark hole indicating an exposed pulp chamber. This unmistakable pattern of wear is the direct signature of that abrasive diet, confirming the omnipresent grit in their food. It's like looking at a geological cross-section of a tooth, revealing layers of a lifetime struggle against rough sustenance. Then there's the evidence of dental caries, or cavities. Despite the initial thought that abrasive wear might somehow prevent cavities, the reality is that once the enamel was worn through, the softer dentin was highly susceptible. Mummies frequently exhibit multiple cavities, often large and deep, indicating years of untreated decay. These aren't just small holes, they are often cavernous pits, some even reaching into the tooth's nerve. You can almost feel the phantom pain of such deep decay. Even more striking are the signs of abscesses. These painful infections often leave distinct marks on the jawbone. When a dental infection spreads, it can erode the bone surrounding the tooth root, creating a telltale lesion. Radiographic examination, X-rays, and CT scans of mummified jaws clearly reveal these areas of bone destruction, often multiple abscesses in a single jaw. Some mummies show evidence of a fistula, a small channel through the bone and gum, where the infection had finally burst, providing temporary, gruesome relief. This visual evidence provides undeniable proof of chronic and severe pain. Periodontal disease, or gum disease, is also clearly visible. The alveolar bone, which supports the teeth, shows signs of resorption and loss, indicating chronic inflammation and infection of the gums. As the disease progressed, teeth would loosen and eventually fall out, leaving empty sockets or evidence of post-mortem tooth loss. It's common to find mummified jaws with numerous missing teeth, even in individuals who died relatively young. This isn't always from decay. Often, it's the result of severe, untreated gum disease that simply left the teeth without proper support. Beyond macroscopic examination, microscopic analysis provides even finer detail. Scientists can take tiny samples of tooth enamel and dentin, or even ancient food residue, and analyze them. This allows them to confirm the presence of abrasive minerals in the diet, or to identify bacterial DNA associated with specific dental pathogens. While there is broad consensus on the prevalence of dental disease, some academic debates still exist regarding the exact types of bacteria responsible for the most common infections in ancient Egyptian mouths. Given the challenges of DNA preservation, the meticulous records kept by Egyptologists and medical researchers, detailing every tooth, every lesion, and every missing space, have created vast databases. These databases allow for comparative studies across different periods, different social classes, and even different geographic regions within ancient Egypt. And consistently, the story they tell is one of pervasive, grinding dental misery, from the lowliest laborer to the most divine pharaoh. One particularly fascinating and slightly morbid detail is the discovery of dental work that was clearly performed after death, as part of the mummification process. For example, some pharaohs or nobles have been found with gold wires binding loose teeth together, or even rudimentary tooth replacements. However, these were almost certainly cosmetic additions to make the mummy appear more presentable for the afterlife, rather than functional dental interventions performed during life. It's a macabre irony the dead received better dental care than the living. So, when you see a pharaoh's serene face on a sarcophagus, remember the secrets whispered by their teeth. The mummified remains, stripped bare of their regalia, offer a brutal, honest assessment of their daily lives. They are silent witnesses to centuries of pain, a testament to the fact that even divine power couldn't prevent the inevitable dental disaster caused by the very food that sustained their magnificent civilization. It's a truly humbling piece of evidence. Straight from the crypts? You've sifted through the evidence from the crypts, confirming the widespread dental woes of ancient Egypt. Now, a crucial question emerges in a society so stratified. Did social status and dental suffering align? Did wealth and power offer any protection from the pervasive problem of dental decay? Or was it a great equalizer, grinding down the teeth of pharaoh and peasant alike? The answer, as you'll discover, reveals a surprising and painful truth. Imagine the pharaoh, surrounded by unimaginable luxury. He eats the finest cuts of meat, fresh fruits, and sweet honeyed pastries. His bread is baked in royal kitchens, perhaps with slightly finer sifting of flour. You might logically conclude that his privileged diet and surroundings would grant him superior dental health compared to the sun-baked peasant subsisting on coarse, gritty bread and little else. However, the evidence tells a different story. While there might be minor differences, the overwhelming archaeological and anthropological data suggests that all social classes in ancient Egypt suffered from significant dental pathology. The pharaohs, as we've seen, had terrible teeth, but so did their nobles, their priests, their scribes, and indeed their common laborers. This widespread affliction points to a fundamental and inescapable problem deeply embedded in their food production and consumption, transcending the boundaries of wealth and status. The primary reason for this dental democracy of decay was the universal reliance on grain as the dietary staple, and the ubiquitous presence of abrasive grit in that grain. Whether you were grinding flour in a royal mill or a humble village quern, the fundamental technology of saddle querns meant that tiny particles of stone and sand were incorporated into virtually every loaf of bread. A pharaoh's bread might be made from slightly higher quality grain or more finely sieved flour, but it was still far from the refined, grit-free flour we know today. The difference was negligible in terms of its long-term abrasive effect on teeth. It's like saying a luxury car going over a gravel road will be fine, but a cheap car won't. Both will still feel the bumps and get dusty. In fact, paradoxically, the elite might have faced additional dental challenges due to their access to a wider variety of foods. While the poor subsisted mainly on gritty bread and beer, the wealthy consumed more fruits, particularly dried dates and figs, and an abundance of honey. As we discussed, these sticky, sugar-rich foods, while a source of pleasure, were a major catalyst for dental caries. So, while the poor suffered primarily from extreme tooth wear, the rich often suffered from a brutal combination of both wear and rampant cavities. Their luxurious diet, ironically, contributed to different, but equally painful, forms of dental decay. Consider the mummified remains. When scientists examine the teeth of elite individuals, they consistently find signs of severe attrition, rampant cavities, and numerous abscesses, often leading to significant tooth loss. The same patterns are observed in common burials, sometimes even more pronounced wear due to a lifetime of only coarse foods. This widespread evidence suggests that no amount of wealth or social standing could truly shield an individual from the dietary realities of ancient Egypt. While there is broad agreement on the pervasive nature of dental disease, some historical debates consider whether certain luxury items, like very soft pastries or strained honey, might have offered some marginal, if ultimately insignificant, dental protection to the wealthiest elite. Even medical care, which was supposedly better for the pharaohs, offered little long-term help for dental issues. As we've seen, ancient Egyptian dentistry was rudimentary at best, focused on pain management and crude extractions rather than preventative care or effective restorative procedures. A pharaoh might have a dedicated physician to apply soothing poultices, but that physician possessed no magical cure for an abscess deep in the jaw, or for the relentless wearing down of teeth from gritty bread. The fundamental limitations of their medical knowledge regarding oral health apply to all, regardless of status. This shared dental suffering is a powerful reminder of how deeply fundamental technological limitations can impact an entire society. Despite the stark social hierarchy, the basic facts of food production and oral biology acted as a great equalizer in the realm of dental health. The pharaoh might have worn a golden crown, but beneath it, his mouth often harbored the same pain and pathology as the lowliest farmer. It's almost a humorous thought. Isn't it the pharaoh, the living god, holding court, perhaps issuing decrees with a slight lisp due to missing teeth, or wincing subtly from a throbbing abscess? It punctures the aura of divine perfection and brings a very human, very relatable vulnerability to these ancient rulers. Their teeth were a tangible link to their common humanity, a stark reminder that some aspects of life are universal, regardless of wealth or power. So, when you reflect on the splendor of ancient Egypt, remember that beneath the gold and the grandeur, the pervasive dental suffering was a shared experience. It was a common plight, binding pharaoh and peasant in a silent, grinding battle against their own sustenance. The evidence from their crypts tells a poignant story in the end. When it came to their teeth, even kings were just mortals, suffering like everyone else. You've probed the shared dental misery of all ancient Egyptians, regardless of status. Now, let's broaden our scope and consider how this pervasive oral pain extended beyond the toothache's systemic impact. The constant, debilitating dental problems of the pharaohs and their subjects were not just isolated issues within their mouths. They likely had profound and far-reaching effects on their overall well-being, their daily lives, and even their longevity. Imagine the pharaoh suffering from chronic tooth pain. A persistent toothache isn't just an annoyance. It's a source of constant stress. This chronic pain could lead to sleep deprivation, making it difficult for the pharaoh to rest properly, impacting his mood, focus, and ability to make sound decisions. A leader suffering from perpetual exhaustion and irritability due to a throbbing jaw would hardly be at his peak performance. How do you maintain an aura of divine authority when you haven't had a decent night's sleep in weeks? Beyond mere discomfort, the presence of untreated abscesses posed a significant, often life-threatening risk. An abscess is a localized infection, but if left untreated, it can spread. Imagine bacteria from an infected tooth spreading to the jawbone, causing osteomyelitis, a severe bone infection. In a world without antibiotics, such infections could be devastating, leading to widespread inflammation, fever, and potentially fatal sepsis. While medical papyri mention various ailments, the direct link between dental infections and systemic illness might not have been fully understood. It's likely that many seemingly unrelated fevers or unexplained deaths, even among the elite, could have originated from a rampant dental infection. The severe tooth wear attrition and loss also had a direct impact on their ability to chew and, consequently, on their nutrition. With teeth worn flat or missing entirely, chewing tough foods like meat or fibrous vegetables would have been incredibly difficult, if not impossible. This could lead to individuals favoring softer, easier-to-eat foods, potentially resulting in a less varied and less nutrient-dense diet. For a pharaoh, while food was abundant, if he couldn't properly masticate his meals, he might not have been able to extract all the necessary nutrients, leading to deficiencies. For the common person, whose diet was already meager, this chewing difficulty could have had even more severe consequences, potentially contributing to malnutrition. Consider the impact on digestion. Inadequate chewing means larger food particles entering the digestive system, placing a greater burden on the stomach and intestines. This could lead to indigestion, nutrient malabsorption, and other gastrointestinal issues. While not immediately life-threatening, chronic digestive problems would certainly diminish a pharaoh's energy levels and overall quality of life. The visible consequences of poor dental health, missing teeth, swollen jaws from abscesses, and the resulting changes in facial structure would also have had social and psychological impacts. For a pharaoh, maintaining an image of perfection and divine beauty was crucial. Extensive tooth loss or a visibly swollen face would have been a significant cosmetic challenge, potentially undermining their aura of majesty. While ancient standards of beauty differed, severe disfigurement due to dental issues was unlikely to be seen as ideal. It's almost ironic they spent immense resources on elaborate cosmetics and wigs, yet couldn't hide the painful truth of their mouths. Furthermore, a chronic pain has well-documented effects on mood and mental health. Living with constant dental agony could lead to irritability, depression, and a reduced capacity for joy. For a ruler, this could affect their judgment, their interactions with advisors, and their overall ability to govern effectively. Imagine Cleopatra, known for her charm and intelligence. wincing during a crucial negotiation because of a throbbing tooth. It adds a very human, relatable layer of vulnerability to these seemingly untouchable figures. The very act of speaking could also be impacted. Missing teeth can cause lisps or difficulties in articulation, which, for a pharaoh who delivered speeches and commands, might have been a subtle but noticeable impediment. While this might seem minor, for a divine ruler, every aspect of their public presentation was meticulously managed. While definitive linguistic studies on speech patterns of ancient Egyptians with severe tooth loss are challenging, phoneticians widely acknowledge the impact of dental morphology on articulation. In essence, the dental woes of ancient Egypt were not merely a nuisance. They were a pervasive public health crisis, impacting individuals from the highest throne to the humblest hut. The cumulative effects of chronic pain, infection, malnutrition, and even psychological distress likely reduced overall quality of life and contributed to a shorter average lifespan than what might have been possible had dental health been better managed. The serene faces on their statues and death masks conceal a much more painful and challenging reality, one where the human body, specifically the mouth, was in constant battle against the very sustenance that kept it alive. It's a humbling thought, isn't it, that for all their advancements, the pharaohs and their people were profoundly affected by something as seemingly simple as the state of their teeth. You've traversed the daily pain, the widespread suffering, and the systemic impact of ancient Egyptian dental woes. Now, as our journey through the pharaoh's terrible teeth concludes, let's step back and consider a legacy of gritted teeth, the surprising and painful dental inheritance left by a civilization renowned for its grandeur and seemingly advanced medical knowledge. Imagine looking at the iconic images of ancient Egypt, the serene faces on sarcophagi, the majestic statues, the intricate hieroglyphs. These depictions often convey an image of perfection, of a society in harmonious balance. Yet, beneath this polished surface lies a stark and often agonizing reality, one painfully etched into the very dental remains of its people. From the lowliest laborer to the mightiest pharaoh, the first and perhaps most enduring. Part of this legacy is the undeniable proof that diet dictates dental destiny. The pervasive and continuous presence of abrasive grit in their staple food, bread, was a relentless force that no amount of wealth or social status could overcome. It was a fundamental flaw in their food technology, a constant grinding that slowly but surely destroyed their teeth. This serves as a powerful historical lesson. Even seemingly benign aspects of daily life can have profound, long-term health consequences when technological limitations are at play. This leads to the second part of the legacy, the great dental equalizer. While ancient Egyptian society was rigidly hierarchical, dental suffering was remarkably democratic. The pharaoh suffered from excruciating abscesses, and so did the farmer. The rich experienced severe wear and rampant cavities, and so did the poor. This shared vulnerability reminds us that some fundamental human experiences, especially those tied to basic biological functions and environmental factors, can transcend social divides, binding an entire civilization in a common, albeit painful, plight. Furthermore, the mummified remains have left us an extraordinary scientific testament. These ancient bodies are not just historical artifacts, they are invaluable biological archives. Through meticulous scientific analysis, modern researchers have been able to reconstruct the dietary habits, disease patterns, and even the daily struggles of a people long gone. The dental evidence, preserved in such remarkable detail, has revolutionized our understanding of ancient health and lifestyle, providing concrete data that goes far beyond textual accounts. It's a powerful demonstration of how seemingly small details, like worn teeth, can unlock vast amounts of historical knowledge. The limited and often painful remedies of ancient Egyptian dentistry also highlight a crucial point: the limitations of ancient medicine. Despite their advanced surgical skills in some areas and their rich pharmacopoeia of herbal remedies, their understanding of oral pathology was rudimentary. They could treat symptoms, but rarely the root cause. This legacy underscores the monumental leaps in medical science that would take millennia to achieve, particularly in the realm of preventative care and effective pain management, areas we often take for granted today. Perhaps the most poignant aspect of this legacy is the humanization of the divine. When we acknowledge that pharaohs, these living gods, endured chronic toothaches, abscesses, and the pain of missing teeth, it punctures the mystique surrounding them. It brings them down from their lofty pedestals and makes them relatable, vulnerable human beings, struggling with ailments that many of us have experienced. It adds a layer of empathy to our understanding of their lives, reminding us that even absolute power couldn't conquer simple biological realities. Finally, this story of the pharaoh's teeth is a silent yet powerful argument for the importance of mundane technological progress. The simple invention of a more efficient, less abrasive grain mill, or the development of effective oral hygiene tools, would have had a more profound positive impact on the daily lives and health of the ancient Egyptians than many of the grand architectural or artistic achievements they pursued. It's a quiet testament to the unsung heroes of innovation who, over centuries, slowly refined the processes that ultimately led to healthier lives for billions. So, the next time you reflect on ancient Egypt, beyond the pyramids and the Sphinx, remember the silent, grinding battle fought within the mouths of its people. Their legacy isn't just etched in stone, it's painfully preserved in their teeth, a humbling reminder of their very human struggles and the enduring power of a story that surprisingly begins with a grain of sand. All right, as the last echoes of our journey through ancient Egyptian teeth fade into the quiet of the night, it's time to gently bring our minds back to the present. You've walked through the royal courts, examined the gritty bread, felt the phantom pains of ancient abscesses, and understood that even gods suffered very human afflictions. It's a powerful reminder that history, in its quietest corners, often reveals the most surprising truths. Let the images of worn teeth, lingering pain, and primitive remedies fade away, giving way to the quiet peace that surrounds you. The smell of ancient sand and dust fades, giving way to the familiar comfort of your own space. Let any lingering thoughts of the pharaoh's teeth drift away, replaced by a sense of relaxation and peaceful reflection. The struggles and triumphs of the ancients are now, temporarily, part of your understanding, enriching your sense of history in the tapestry of human endeavor. As your breathing deepens and your body relaxes, know that the stories of the past are always here, patiently waiting to be rediscovered whenever you seek a gentle escape into the depths of time. But for now, the journey is complete. Rest easy, knowing that another story has been revealed. Gently, just for you.